Yes.
I'm looking for my live show, though.
Oh.
Which is what I'm looking for now.
So
We should
after,
be live.
so this is from after I got off Watercolor Wednesday with you.
Look at all that.
Yeah. So I have like a little bit of roughs for the ships,
Uh-huh.
and they're colored to kind of give you an idea of who they belong, like which belongs to what. So, so yeah. So the ones that I didn't draw on Watercolor Wednesday. This is the Mad Rogue or the Mad Rouge. I can't remember. I can't think of.
You're like, the
Rogue
mad
Rouge.
something. He's just
Yeah.
mad. Maybe he's just
Yeah, I
mad.
mean, he's red no matter what. So I think the Mad Rouge would be fun because he's a guy, and normally when you name someone Rouge, it's a girl. So yeah, there you go. Then you have Cadet Cadet Ernest, and you have Cadet Jones. So
Well, there you go.
yeah.
Let's put on some tunes. T-U-N-Z, tunes.
So everyone else can hear it. I barely all the time, like, I don't understand, like, you say that there's music playing, but I never hear it until it's like the very end of the show.
Well, if you're that's something I actually want to. I'm glad you said that, because I don't see it on my mixer either, where it says speakers output.
Yeah.
So I'm going to. There. Now you should be able to hear it. Clearly, it was never set up correctly.
Okay.
Of course, the other drawback to this is when you talk, it's going to go through my speaker's output. So maybe we'll get double chatter from you. I don't know.
I don't know. Do I sound like I'm
You,
double?
yeah, when you talk, I see you on my speaker's output. So
When you talk, you don't see you don't come through on my speakers.
well, I guess we'll find out in a minute whether this
Well,
is
I
made.
mean, like, let me clarify. You come out on my speakers. You don't come. It doesn't sound like you're coming through on my microphone.
Oh yeah. I think this is something
I can hear
you probably won't hear. It's just going to be people who are watching the show that will hear it. So
we'll hope. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you are watching the show and you are hearing an echo of Pepper, just tell me. Pepper echo, a pecco.
A pecco? That's a place that you go for your pets. Do you know if you spell my name backwards, it's just one letter off from Reaper?
Oh, good, you're a miniature company.
Huh?
You're a miniature company.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to attack a bunch of hexagons. That's today's job. And today's job is also going to be to unplug and replug my monitor. Because I have a dead pen.
Okay. Well, you're frozen for me right now. I don't know about you to me, so.
I'm frozen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're making a.
Okay, we're
Well,
really having issues here.
there it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so the monitor is frozen. I don't know what the problem is with the monitor. Huh? There we go. Bring the monitor back online. Do we have? Yes, we do. Okay, there we go. Now we have control over the monitor. That's good. Clearly, I'm just making everything upset and confused. So, okay, today we're going to work on the paneling on the bottom here. Yesterday, my kiddo had said he didn't really like the paneling as much on the underside, and I kind of agree with him. But then I was like, but what am I going to do with it, though? How are we going to fix this? So I brought in the original mesh of the model, and it's overlaying here, and we're going to try to fix it. That's what we're going to do.
Oh, well, I know that one of the people that you after you posted it basically said like,
Thinner lines.
Yeah.
That was Joe Becker, who
Yeah.
is. I went to college with him, which means he's in the same boat as I am about the college.
Yeah.
But yeah, he and I. He's an RTG guy too, and I think he's spot on. I feel like the lines are too thick. The lines here are, if you look, these lines are too dramatic, or not dramatic enough, and these lines are too dramatic. So we're going to go on ahead and just redo the underside of the ship. It shouldn't be that bad. And you're right, Ghost Hand. When in doubt, hexagons. It's the old adage of oops. There we go. That's all right. Nobody will notice that. Let's again this time. Less obnoxiousness. So what are you working on, Pepper?
I am finally writing a script because let's just put it this way, like I've had some interesting processes with this latest art block that I've had.
Right.
It doesn't seem like things are flowing well, so I'm trying to take my mind off of it. So
Gotcha.
this is kind of like, hey, in Ghost Hand, I would love -2 Celsius mornings.
Right. Right now, -2 Celsius would be just so nice.
It would be.
I know Ghost Hand's not feeling that, though, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure, -2 is just making Ghost Hand, like, hate life. See, I think that's kind of part of the problem, though. I mean, it's like it wears you down on either direction. Like, I would have been really happy. I mean, right now, it's 27 out there, right? So it's 27 and climbing. And 30 is like the line where I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Bye. I hate you people. That's like my mystical line. But I feel like I could handle 30 Celsius if yesterday was -2. You know what I mean?
Right.
And vice versa. Like, I could handle -2 just fine if 30 was the day before.
Well, and just remember, we're in Colorado, so we could have that in one whole week.
Right?
Where like we could like literally I've lived here and I've had all 4 seasons in 1 week like 6 times.
Now, as I say, we've had at least 2 seasons in a day.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Was it one? Yeah.
See, there you go. That's making lemonade from your lemons right there. That's great.
I personally I am not a huge fan of heat. and I'm from Florida. I moved away because I don't like heat. I don't like like any of that. No,
I'm definitely a cold guy.
like it's and everyone like when I moved to Colorado, everyone was like, "You don't miss the weather?" I'm like, "I don't miss the heat, and I don't miss the mugginess. I don't miss the bugs. I don't miss it."
Oops.
What I mean, if I did miss anything, I would say that like the most thing I miss about Florida and where I grew up is the beach.
Yeah. We don't have beaches here. My kiddo likes the beach a lot too.
Yeah.
And he was kind of bummed that we didn't head out to Galveston when we were there last. So he felt like that was a thing that we should have done, and I'm not disagreeing with him.
Yeah, I'm not used to 40 degrees Celsius. Firsthand, definitely not. I grew up probably around that range,
Yep.
and I will not. Like I don't know. I know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As a Coloradan, we used to only get 2 or 3 days that were up in the 30s and the 40s. And now it's getting to the point where we have months in the 30s now. And
Well,
I'm like, I'm not sure I'm built for this, you know?
well, and the funny thing is, everyone's like, think global warming, and I'm like, no, think the planet shifting just slightly to cause this.
It's global warming. That the planet shifting doesn't do that much damage to it. We don't shift enough.
We don't know enough about that process to actually really definitively say that. That's the problem.
This is gonna get ugly, man, because we do. We actually sent a probe to
Yes,
Mars, whose
you can
whole
send to
job.
Mars, yeah, but no, nothing has been measured on Earth to kind of prove what you just said successfully, in my mind.
Okay, in your mind, I'm okay with that.
Um,
I am
because
more than willing to talk to you about it,
yeah,
but because
yeah,
I got the science,
and I
I got the
understand the
science from a
science too.
number of probes.
I understand the science too, but like I also studied business, environment, um, how businesses impact environments, and all I can say is we can't have this drastic of a shift in like less than 2 years, pretty much during the summer in North America, and even in the southern hemisphere, they have extreme weather. They there's some areas that have been getting extreme weather as well there too. So it's not just one place. I mean, global warming does have an effect. However, I do believe that like there's other factors at play that we aren't looking at because we are taking global warming as the main culprit.
It is the main culprit.
I will agree to disagree with that statement. Because well, and the only reason I'm not being nepotistic about it, but it's just it's one of those things of we are not looking at it holistically enough to see all the factors of what goes into global warming. We've studied everything in the past about our weather shifting and how our planet was formed, but it seems like we don't take that same approach to modern day.
We absolutely do. I mean, I don't know.
You do probably, but I don't think everyone does, guy. That's what I'm trying to say. Is I think every scientist that's studying it has their own objective and their own viewpoint, and some of them don't align with the others.
Hmm. So I guess really the biggest thing is at one point in time, I actually did the math on this.
Hmm.
There is I don't remember the numbers anymore, but there's X amount of tons of atmosphere in the world. Not actually as much as you think it is, because really it's just the skin on the planet. is our atmosphere. And all the power plants on the planet generate something in the order of 200 billion tons of CO2 every day, if you count all of them. And the trees only put out about, if you count all the trees on the planet, you only get about 1 or 2 trillion tons of oxygen. And we keep cutting the trees down. And so the offset is getting to the point now where it's pretty clear we are generating more CO2 than ever before. And the CO2 is a heavy gas. It falls down. That's what Maven was doing on Mars, was analyzing the fact that the CO2 gases fall and the O2 rises. And when the O2 rises above the CO2, it ends up getting broken up by the sun and turned into, what's that? O1. Or just ozone. Ozone, that's the word.
Yeah.
Lost it for a minute there. Turns into ozone.
Yeah.
Which is not breathable or usable by us. So
no, but it's wonderful for lightning.
It is wonderful for lightning. It's great for electricity. Stuff like that. But it's not the cars that are killing us. It's the power plants. It's the power plants. The power plants are putting out billions of tons of CO2 every day. And that's a lot of CO2. And so,
let's just put it this way: like, if there's CO2 coming out from electrical plants and other types of manufacturing factories, we also have a system in place where people can buy the right to pollute.
What?
You can buy what is known as pollution credits.
Yes. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Absolutely. That's the battle plan, if you will, to try to make it so that people will be responsible, because of course people won't be responsible by default.
Right.
They have to be convinced. But that's okay. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong necessarily, but I don't agree with it.
I mean, that's fine. And I mean, the truth of the matter is that
I don't know.
As Dr. Tyson says, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, I have some issues with, because he basically declassified Pluto as a planet, or made the comment about it shouldn't be a planet anymore.
Shouldn't be a planet.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a planet. No, I mean, it shouldn't be a planet.
No, it's classified as a dwarf planet now, but like me in my childhood, I'm like, Jupiter's always going to be a planet, because I'm like one of the last, like my time at school, it was a planet.
Sure, but it shouldn't be a planet. Well, and the reason
dwarf planet. Let me be specific. It's been classified as a dwarf planet, and the solar system, our solar system, has about 16 of those, not just our normal planets.
So you have to decide, do we have 8 planets, or do we have like 47 planets?
Yeah,
which decide? And if you classify Pluto as a planet, you have to classify Ceres as a planet, which means that it's Earth, or it's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Ceres, Jupiter, Saturn. So
because
another planet.
Because Pallas, Vesta, and Juno in the asteroid belt aren't big enough to be classified as a dwarf planet.
No, but Ceres is.
But Ceres is, yes.
So it's one of those things. It's like, that's why he says it. And Pluto is doing its best. Not pestering the poor thing. He's doing his best. Not only that, Pluto's moon is 70% the size of Pluto.
Yeah.
So you almost have to count Pluto as a double planet system?
It
makes it even worse?
Yeah, it's a binary
planet system.
Actually, they feed on their orbit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, well,
but
I wouldn't get mad at Dr. Tyson for that, though.
Well, no, I get mad at the way that it was handled. Let me put it that way. For
You mean like his attitude towards it?
Mm, the people around him's attitude towards it. Yeah.
Because, I
Um,
mean,
yeah.
there comes a point where I mean, like, I can understand his frustration. I have over and over and over talked about Pluto being a dwarf planet, and the number of times that I have to explain it and go through it, I can actually kind of understand why he gets frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's like, it's like, well, but yeah, but it should still be a planet. Well, you're only really saying that not based on science. You're saying that based solely on your feelings, and that's not how science works. So
Well, I
it's
mean, like I stated, like when I was in school, it was taught to me that it was a planet. So in my
sure.
mind, it's always going to be a planet.
And
There's
there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying I just have a hard time processing it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's that people keep going, yeah, Miss Dr. DeGrasse Tyson, but you're wrong.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying.
I know, but you can see why he gets frustrated because people do say he's wrong.
Well, I mean,
It's like, what?
it also at the same time, like if you actually think about it, if that was the case, like we were classifying planets as like based off of size and everything, um, Jupiter has like some of the biggest moons in our solar system,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the moons are bigger than Pluto.
They are.
So if you
And there was
Pluto as
discussion
a
as to
planet,
whether, and that was part of it, was discussion as to, well, part of the problem is when Tombaugh discovered Pluto in 1932, the problem with it was he was looking for another planet out there. Actually, he wasn't. He happened upon that planet out there. It was actually a different astronomer who was looking for it, but that's okay. When he discovered it, the problem was that everybody was so excited they found another planet that they just instantly added it as a planet. But there's no classification. They didn't give it a classification, they just added it. And so we ended up with Pluto as a planet, which is fine. But now that we're seeing other solar systems, we have to be able to come up with classifications. If we're looking at a solar system and we're like, say, Proxima Centauri b, which is a solar system that actually exists around the third star of the Alpha Centauri trinary system, you want to talk about those planets and say, okay, which ones are planets, which ones are dwarf planets, which ones are asteroids? What's the classification for all of those? Because at some point in time, we're going to have to list them because there will be a probe there or something. Somebody will send something to Alpha Centauri to visualize the system. And so we'll have to come up with a way to classify it. And I mean, like the Webb telescope may actually be able to visually see all the planets in that system. So do you call them dwarf planets by size? Do you call them dwarf planets because of orbit? Do you call them dwarf? What do you call them dwarf planets by? And Pluto sits inside what we call an Oort cloud. So do you call any planets outside in the Oort cloud still planets? So it's like, it's got a lot of things to do. Argue with people over anything is hard.
well, and also at the same time, like I understand that we have found planets in certain systems that seem like super Earths. Basically, they're blue. We think that they probably have an atmosphere that we could probably benefit from, but they're like 3 times or 4 times the size of our planet currently.
Sure.
And like in my mind, I'm like, what type of people would come from this? Like, if human beings were raised on this planet, like, what would we look like? And then I go back to, well, say Jupiter wasn't didn't have had a livable surface. What would we look like if we lived on Jupiter? It's like, would everyone be incredibly short and stocky? The gravity alone would actually kind of force us down. Like, we would have a hard time growing up.
Yeah, that would definitely be true if we lived on Jupiter. We'd be shorter. That's actually one of the things that's interesting about the Expanse.
Yeah.
Because the Belters are tall, really tall and thin. because they live on asteroids and they're born on asteroids.
Yeah. And they can't go to Earth for long periods of time because their bodies can't handle it.
Can't handle it.
They can be on Mars a bit longer, but they can't stay there permanently.
Right.
However, I remember a story. It's not The Expanse, but I do remember that there was a story that I ended up watching or reading or something when I was a kid, where they were describing like people living on Mars and the Moon, and the lunar people they were basically described as plump. They were tall and plump.
Tall and plump, huh?
So basically, they had permanent apple cheeks. They had rounder bodies. Their fingers and everything had more weight, like more what we would consider basically. It looked like they were just rounder.
Huh.
Because I don't know if I would say that it's space racism, Ghost Hand. I know The Expanse, race doesn't matter as much to the story as...
You need to read the books. Because they've been downplaying it.
I know in the
they've been downplaying it in the TV show, but
yeah,
but they've been calling they call Belters skinnies, and they call Earthers, and they've got all kinds of slang names and racist names.
Let me back up here for a second. They basically discriminate against where you come from.
Yeah, that's racism.
Yes, that is a form of racism, but is it based off of the color of their skin or that? Which is modern day racism.
I was going to say racism is being against somebody for something that they cannot change.
Right.
Something that is a racial trait. So it's not necessarily color of skin.
No, but that's on how most people view it that are around my age.
Okay. But that's not what it is.
I know what you're saying, but I am stating that here in America, most people my age, that's on how they basically view it, among other things.
Okay.
That's the main one. Guy, there's about 10 years. There's a little over 10 years difference between me and you. So, like,
I just think that when you talk about what Ghost Hand's talking about, Ghost Hand and I both go, it doesn't matter. Racism, if you talk about Gen X, racism is specifically against black people. Like,
oh, yeah.
Because we didn't quite grasp the gravity of the size of how many people were lumped in until later. So I agree that, by perception of what culture you're from, it changes it. But Ghost Hand's got hey, Joan.
Hey, Joan.
Yeah, the red glasses are pretty kick butt. I'm just saying. But, racism can be anything that's a racial trait. So I think what Ghost Hand's saying is true. Because, of course, I am imposing racism in Bellatrix Rising under a trait that isn't even really racial.
Right.
But I mean, it's like the racism in Bellatrix Rising is going to be against people who are just from a different culture. So it's really culturalism, if you want to be technical, which I guess could be a thing. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to agree with you, like, if someone walked up to me and they were like, they looked like that, and I was a kid, I probably would say something weird.
You would totally freak out.
Well, not really freak out, because I was a really weird kid. Like, I probably would have tried to be friends with that person first.
Yeah. That's the way to be as a kid, though.
Yeah.
That's the best way to be.
Yeah.
My mom used to do that all the time. She used to be really big on if they're different, they're fascinating, instead of if they're different, they're scary. And she intentionally did that.
Yeah.
and I kind of picked up on it. Now I like all kinds of things, especially because that's a good point.
Yeah.
Racism and xenophobia are completely different.
Oh yes, definitely. That is for sure 100%.
I absolutely agree.
All right. So
And by
subject.
the way, have I recently mentioned that I really am fascinated with Ghost Hand's command of the English language, seeing as how I know that's probably his second language, and he's got xenophobia. Like, nicely done. I can't say xenophobia in Japanese. And it's like, that's my second language. He's showing me up.
I can believe it.
You
My
know?
my cousin's married to a Brazilian woman, so her vocabulary is much more extensive than most people that I've met. So
Yeah. Still just want to say that kudos to Ghost Hand for
yeah.
having that much of an awesome command of his second language. Because I don't have that much of a command of my second language. So I feel a little, sad.
Yeah.
Not sad. I mean, really, honestly, my most recent forays into Japanese have been slang, so that's been fun. I'm waiting to unleash the slang on the kiddo when she gets back here because I know she'll be like, "How do you know all this slang?" And I'll be like, "I learned it on YouTube." And she'll be like, "What?" Like, I don't know. Leave me alone. So,
Yeah.
I am only doing the I have to think about this. Port side of the ship right now. So we will be doing the port side of this. And this time I'm going in and I'm working on these as panel lines. So we're going to be working on these as panel work instead of having them be hexagons. And I'll put the hexagons back in, but I'm going to make them smaller and I'm going to put them in strategic areas. And I think that will solve my major problem brought up by the kiddo. So,
Now, what was his problem? I know Joe Becker's problem, but what was his problem?
well, he's the one that sort of brought up that there was something kind of aggressive about the hexagons under here, and I had always sort of felt the same way, like they were just a little too sharp, a little too aggressive. Something wasn't quite right. It didn't look as good as I wanted it to. So now I'm back in here on the panel lines, kind of trying to figure stuff out.
I didn't see the original ones, so from my opinion, when I was like, this is just an opinion, so everyone has one.
Let's look at it real quick.
I do agree with Joe that the line thickness, if you could go down to the like a line thickness so that was that showed that it was barely there.
Yeah.
I think it would work.
I think so too. But I'm also kind of going through here and cleaning up some of the line work anyway.
Yeah. But it is very much very overwhelming to look.
Yeah. That's what I'm feeling like too. I feel like it's a little too overwhelming, so we're just going to lay it down a little bit. It won't be that bad. It'll be fine. This is fine. So anyway, we're just going to do some line work under here, and then I'm going to put in zones of that honeycomb because I think that looks cool it'll look cooler in bits and zones, I think.
Like if
So
light was hitting it.
maybe I'm thinking more along the lines of like leading edges of the wings, this little section right here, and maybe right up here in this little zone on the hammerhead.
Okay.
You know, and stuff like that. Like I'll build a little zone in here where it's in there, and feel like that will look cool too.
Gotcha.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I like bees too. I especially like bumblebees.
Agreed.
The fat, round, fuzzy bodies are so adorable.
Not sure what to think about that.
What? Have you never seen a full-on bumblebee?
No. I've seen a full-on bumblebee. Just the fat, fuzzy, round bodies.
They're fat and round bodies compared to normal bees.
Yeah, they can't fly, technically speaking.
Well,
That's actually like aerodynamics 101 is the first thing you do is have to study how bumblebees manage to fly. Because they're not supposed to aerodynamically.
Yeah, they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to be able to fly, but they do.
Yep.
And it's more of like a hover. Like they're like more of a high like a guided hover, and they like I've seen a bumblebee fly. It's really weird.
They try to nest in your hair. Oh, that would give me that. I tell you right there, that would give me paranoia. Right? I'd be like, that's it. I'm out. I'm leaving Brazil now.
if Bill was here, he probably would feel the same way if I mentioned this to him.
Right? I am horribly. So the study of bumblebee flight is actually fascinating because bumblebees and dragonflies fly with the same pattern of flight with the wings doing this, which is what they do to keep the flight going.
Excuse me.
So it's that's how bumblebees can fly because they, like I said, aerodynamically speaking, they do not have enough power to lift their body. So the study was on its wing flight. And because of the way that it stirs the air like this, it causes huge pressure points underneath in the air. It compresses the air so that when the wings turn, they press down on the air quite a bit. And it allows them to literally sit on a cushion of air that they're generating underneath them, which is fascinating. And it's a completely different way of flight from the way that we've learned from everything else, where you have the classic angle of getting lift on top of a wing.
So Ghost Hand, I'm just going to say this right now. Thank you for mentioning it. I will not be showing this to my husband because I think he would basically be freaking out.
Yep, don't show it to me. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not going to show it to you either. But
I'm good.
I do find the bug that you were talking about super adorable at the same time. I don't know why. I don't think I would mind it nesting in my hair, but I probably would mind it crawling around on my head.
More power to you, my friend. You can enjoy bugs to your heart's content. Just leave me out of it.
Well, I think it has kind of something to do with the fact that my mom was like a bug lover as well. So it was like
That's fine.
Yeah, like my mom actually
liked bugs too, and I just stayed away.
I mean, I just don't like the mosquito type bugs, and I don't like the cockroach like bugs. And technically, I am allergic to cockroaches. So
good. Me too.
No, I mean like literally. I took an allergen test, and cockroaches was like the number 2 allergen I had.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna name it my number 1 allergen.
Well,
you're like, you're not taking me seriously. I'm like, I'm not taking roaches seriously, man. I'm taking roaches seriously.
Well, changing the subject a little, I'm gonna veer off. Last night, I was awake. Our power went out for almost a full hour.
That's because this is Colorado and not Texas.
What are you trying to say about Texas getting its power back on?
I'm saying if it was Texas, your power would still be out and will be out for 2 more days
Oh,
until
well,
you pay $500.
yeah.
I'm pretty bitter about this.
Is that what they ended up doing when the power outages happened not that long ago?
Yep, they charged my dad like $200, $300 more than usual for the power outage that almost killed him. And I was like, well, that's nice. Really, no, it's not actually. So yeah, it was the ultimate end result was that they were going to just charge all of their users an extra amount of money for
Well,
that. And I was like, right.
well, we had some type of outage, or something happened in our buildings, in our
Sure.
entire community here in the apartment complex that I live in. They basically were like, everyone went to our office and was like, yeah, no, we're not paying this. And our apartment complex went back and they were like, yeah, our clients, our people in our building will not pay this. You need to reassess this.
Right. Yeah,
And they're
well,
like, but it wasn't something like, we gave you the price, you guys can't. And they were like, no, this problem was on you, not on us. You
right.
can't charge us for this. And I don't think I've seen that anywhere else outside of Colorado.
Yeah, it's because we have very stringent laws against that.
Yeah. So,
And it is sort of a thing.
and then people wonder why we always say, like, if you live in California, stay in California, don't come to Colorado.
Right.
Because that's the type of stuff that they do there, from what my sister says.
California, Texas, they both sort of have weird things going for them.
I don't know, Florida has weirder.
Everybody's got weirder. I mean, like, it seems to happen a lot, the weirder.
I always find it fascinating the feud. Sorry, I'm like looking at my work so far, and I'm not sure if I'm happy with it. I always find it weird the feud between Texas and Florida about the word cowboy. So,
Yeah, that's a silly thing to get into a feud over.
have you heard about this or no?
No?
So the first cattle ranchers, or the first ranchers in Texas, had to get cows from somewhere, and the most readily available area that had cows was Florida. And since Florida had the Spanish cattle that later would grow into the Texas Longhorn after some manipulation and crossbreeding and stuff like that. Um,
So you're saying that all of that meat is GMO. I'm just saying.
Natural GMO. Natural.
That's what GMO is. Yes.
Not like, take a salmon DNA factor and put it in a beefsteak tomato GMO. But anyways, I digress.
It's still like manipulation of the genes.
Well, if you really want to be technical, canola oil is all GMO, because canola oil the canola plant is a downgraded version of grapeseed.
This was totally an argument between my wife and me for a while because I was like, it's all GMO. Cats are GMO technically.
Yeah, like everything that we have at this point, it's genetically modified foods you can't get away from. Even in organic food, you have GMO. The difference is, when you're classifying GMO versus non-GMO, is, did the genetically modified happenings happen natural occurring,
Right.
or was there a man-made intervention? So, like, for the very long time, I thought I was allergic to tomatoes for a very long time because I'm allergic to salmon. And at one point, we had DNA that went into salmon from salmon that went into beef baked tomatoes.
Right.
So if you have an allergic reaction to both salmon and tomatoes, you think you're allergic to both.
Okay.
Just saying. Anyway, we went off track. I forget what I was trying to talk about.
And we're talking about all kinds of weird stuff today. We're
Yeah.
all over the map.
That's because Bill's not here. Bill's not here. I'm like, what's the point? Bill's not here. I can't do messages with Bill.
Right? Messages from Bill.
No, he actually had a team building thing today.
Uh-huh. I'm just kind of... I think this is funny because I think this is the first time that my kids watch the show. So naturally, we're all over the place.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so far, like with what I'm actually writing, I'm still debating on should a space station that's in a specific style of orbit near Jupiter, should it be a cylinder type style spaceship with like basically gravity orbiting, gravity inducing orbiters around it, or should it like look like a small, like very very small city inside a glass dome with a gravity orbiter around it as well?
I think that you're dictated by the culture of your of your genre,
Right.
or not dictated necessarily, but you know, like
which both of them work within Atomic Punk with Atom Punk. The difference is like aesthetics. Like, do I want to make this look like there's tons of people living there, or do I want to make it look like there's barely anyone living there?
right.
And I think that's what it is. Is like, I think I'm starting this whole entire thing with 2 new cadets, and the story centers around 4 characters on this space station with 1 villain. But also at the same time, I keep realizing Chimpy is part of a race of beings that were sent from Earth, and they can't even live on the planet Jupiter.
Right.
So, like, how many space stations do they have? Because I described this as the very first one that Jupiter is attempting. Because the previous one didn't go so well.
Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's the last of the Babylon stations.
Yeah. Well, their first one crashed and was shattered and killed many people on it, and the remnants is on Io. So
Okay. Actually kind of kick butt.
yeah.
I dig that part of the story.
And then the Mad Rouge is actually like basically one of the people that were on that space station when it happened. So
That's what made him mad.
yes, actually, you're not that far off.
I'd be mad too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Crash your space station and kill all the people. And you guys have any decency? And I'm just mad. All right. That actually kind of looks kick butt. Just like she kind of likes. I like that.
I kind of like it without any hexagons.
Yeah, we're gonna put the hex guns on a different layer so that we can pull the hex guns out and go, yeah, we didn't like that die, you know, or whatever. Or we could say, no, the Hex Guns are awesome, or whatever.
I just wish that there was a program that like you could sit there, make the hexagons, and then if you don't like the line thickness, like press a button and it like makes them smaller.
Right? Wouldn't it be cool if that wasn't right here where it says correct line, adjust line width?
You can do that.
You can do that.
You can do that.
I actually, once again, I learned that in this month's copy of Imagine FX. Hey guys, give me a free subscription to this. Because, like, I'm not kidding. That is the coolest thing that I learned from this was you can adjust the line thickness unilaterally. And she was saying when she was doing it, she's like, well, I like the drawing, but I feel like the lines are really they're not delicate enough. And I was like, wait a minute, what are you about to do? And then she did the adjust line width, and all of her lines got really delicate and thin and hairliney. And I was like, oh God, that looks so much prettier. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. And so now I do that all the time. Which is what I would have done here, except that the hexagons were embedded in this picture. So I'm going to redo them and pull the hexagons back out and then put them on a different layer. And then we can shrink them or enlarge them to our heart's contentness.
You know, I was also thinking, like, if you don't let up on the line, like the line work itself, like you could also impose it where it's not a full, like it's not fully black. It's like faded. It's like a light gray. So it gives you the hint or illusion that something's there, but not really.
Right? Well, we're already way too big. So we'll go ahead and drop it down a lot. It's also very gray. I'm going to do this. And then do this. Put it there. And then we'll hit OK. A couple of things need to happen here is, one, we're going to have to do tonal correction, level correction. I'm going to bring that up because it's not actually legit fully black and white. Now it is. And now I can hit multiply. And we can take a look at this and see how dainty they look. But we can do what I was just saying with the correct line, adjust line width. We can narrow it down. I'm going to hit at least 1 pixel so that it will shrink it down because it didn't do anything. Oh, because I think it's already at correct line, adjust line width. So we'll bring it down to, let's say, 1. I'm trying to figure out whether it did the job or not. I don't think it sees these as lines. That's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I will do a smaller version of it anyway because I feel like that would be cooler. And that will make the lines even more dainty. Because then we can just copy and paste it for each one of these panels. Like these can cover the centroid panels right here on the front. And I'll just line them up because they're not lined up at all. I feel like that line will be kind of disturbing looking. So I might want to, it looks a little rough. Just a little rough, but not a lot. And this isn't a problem because it's outside of the hexagon zones. You know what? I'm just gonna do this. Excuse me. I'm allergic. Oh, I hope there's no cockroaches here. I'm actually not mocking you, although it does sound like I am. I promise I'm not.
Well, it was funny because, like, when I found out that I was allergic to cockroaches, in my first marriage, where I lived, the house belonged to a hoarder, and there was a ton of
cockroaches. That's even worse.
And there was a ton of cockroaches. Like, as we cleaned the house, we discovered that there was, like, it was infested. I was constantly sick in my first marriage, like, to the point where, like, I felt like something was wrong with me. And then when I got that, I was like, oh, so I was, like, literally allergic to people who wanted to squalor and filth. Okay.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah.
You're gonna be allergic to something.
Yeah.
Man, German roaches are the worst. As opposed to the wood roaches, which are actually what I'm terrified of. The wood roaches, which actually aren't very harmful at all, and they're not after. There's nothing you can do with wood roaches. They are just perpetually there, and that's the thing that sucks because they're after water. It's like earwigs here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you don't like those, then you definitely won't like palmetto bugs.
I hate palmetto bugs. Cockroaches that fly. I have better things to do with my life, like not be anywhere near those.
Did I ever tell you about? Did I ever tell you about when I actually saw someone like they were cutting like some type of palm tree near where I went to school, and they hit it just right, and they found a nest of palmetto bugs.
Nope. So many nopes on this. I can't tell you how many nopes we've got going on here. So much nope, so little time.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where every single kid in the area was like pressed up against the glass, sort of deal moment.
And you know that whoever it was like, you know.
Well, my whole
in my horror-filled mind, that's what happens.
The thing is a lot of people don't realize that those things are territorial too.
Those what?
Palmetto bugs are territorial.
Yeah, they are.
So
that's why it smacked me in the face.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to do this. We'll save it as. You know what? We'll just save it as Kittiwake for right now. Okay. And then we'll load up Daz Studio. One of the flaws of Daz Studio that is actually kind of aggravating is that it loads the maps on startup, or when you apply a map to a 3D object. So changing the object does once you change the map, you have to either reload Daz Studio or you have to um, reapply all the maps to the object.
Mm-hmm. So this is something that I would present to you because you know the genre of sci-fi a little bit more than I do.
Uh-huh.
If you had two cadets going on to a brand new ship and they're being personally greeted by the captain, would they salute them and say "sir" if they were female, or "ma'am" if they were female? I'm thinking
So
"sir."
there's kind of a different there's two schools of thought on this.
Okay.
Current U.S. Navy takes the approach of ask the captain what he or she what she wishes, because it's he's are all going to be sirs, but as to whether the captain is referred to as a sir or as a ma'am. In Bellatrix Rising, they're all sirs because they're actually not saying the word sir. They're saying a different word, which is non-gendered, because the modified new language that everybody speaks has got a non-gender language to it. So they're all saying sir effectively, even to Captain Chang, who's obviously female. So that's kind of a thing. I don't know. The truth is, I think I would feel like Atom Punk, Steampunk, those guys are older.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the calling women sir thing was a more progressive thing that came around more in the 80s, 90s, because we didn't have commanders of ships that were female until the 90s.
Right.
So I think that's where I think really you'd probably say ma'am. That'd be my feeling on this.
If it was truly, yeah, because if it was truly Atom Punk, it would have been around the same time where they would have used honorifics that would basically say male or female. They wouldn't have a third gender
Right.
in them. So
now we are talking a little bit here. Where's the JPEG? There's the PSD. Let's take a look at that. Bringing up the PSD now. Let's see if this looks better.
it looks like the hexagon tiles are in the background.
Yep. So let's take this and put in you. Raise the size so you fit properly.
Oh, I actually kind of was digging the smaller one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, only in the sense of it looked like it would frame. It was framed better slightly. Maybe that's just me.
Well, I like that her head sort of fits in the nook of the engine wing combo from the. But looking at this, let's go ahead and put an outer grid on it. Outline selection, so we need to select. Come on, there we go. Control Shift I inverts. Outline selection, the line width, and this time I want outside, so let's do the line width at 20. Deselect and take a look. Maybe that outline width is too much. Down to 15. There we go. I don't know. I hate to say this, but I think actually I want to bring it down even more. Because it looks pretty cool without the outline width. Let's go to 7. Yeah. Just enough to bring it around, but that looks pretty good. Pretty good. I'm liking that. That's better. What do you think? The hexagons are definitely smaller and thinner.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I put them inside panels, they kind of look cool.
Can you make it so that I can only see your screen?
Yeah. No, you just got stuck on top of me.
Well, you can always hide my face.
Yep. I don't need to. It's fine.
It does look better, but for some weird reason, I still liked the ship small. But this is a personal preference. This is not saying that you should do that. I'm just like, I still prefer it being smaller.
Sure.
But also at the same time, the only thing that stands out to me now, and this is just because of Chang's hair, being that it's black, and then you have like this piece of the spaceship that's like completely black. It kind of like my eye doesn't know where, like it's distracted almost just for that one piece. And I don't know if that was intentional or not because I didn't think that it was there before you did this. But also at the same time, I wasn't fully paying attention because I was writing. So
that's fair.
You know, having my eye get distracted from the main focus makes me feel like the ship. So I know we're looking at the ship, but like the overall picture now makes it hard to find the focus for me.
I'm with you.
But if you turn the background black again, let me see if maybe if it's just a background thing. Okay, it slightly fixes it then.
Yeah, and the background in the other version is going to be sort of a light blue, or I mean a dark blue. So with stars.
Yeah,
so that should help a little bit there too.
Yeah, I think that that's the only thing that like I find it's easier to find the focus now with a darker background, but like with a pure white background, it's very distracting.
Right. That's fair.
So I'm also.
But I think that those hexagons though are probably better.
Yeah, the hexagons, like you've broken it up enough to like basically like make it not as distracting as it was before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought the hexagon pattern, like to be realistic, I thought you were going to tell me that that's their solar paneling. That's on how they get extra power when they're out in orbit.
Right? No. No, but I do think that they are a thing. Yeah. There is something technical about them. They are the hyperspace shieldy units, or deflector grids, or you know what I mean. Something. There's something to it that they do. There's a function. Because I'm going to put the hexagons on all of the ships. So there is something, some purpose that they serve. I originally had them as a heat shield, like they are a shield protecting the underhull. But then I realized, as I was doing this, that they have gravity control. These ships.
Sorry, it's all cats.
That's really loud. They need gravity. They've got gravity control. So the honest to goodness truth is, they just stop the ship dead and then drop into the atmosphere, and they don't need to worry about heat handling like we do.
Yeah.
They could just put the ship at a relative. Instead of they come into the planet at like 14,000 miles an hour, and then bleed off all but 700 miles an hour. All of a sudden they just stop the ship, whack, and then they can fly into the atmosphere like an airplane. So they don't need heat shields. So they serve a purpose. I'm just not sure what that purpose is. But I do think this is a much better concept here.
Mm-hmm.
So now all I got to do is close that door.
We were talking about space racism before.
Spacism?
Spacism. And I'm starting to think like maybe I should kind of put it in here. So I'm having the first officer Chimpy basically go, I'm First Officer Chimpy. You'll see more of my kind, so get used to us now.
Right.
Like he said, like he has zero chill about it. He's just like, just get used to us, damn it.
Right. Okay. Couple of small things, housekeeping. All right. I feel like the other thing is we didn't actually do the under door here, which you could theoretically see. But there's a door over this that hasn't been built yet, so I have to manually draw it.
Gotcha.
Kind of aggravating, but that's all right. We'll get there. I think I actually did build it at some point in time. I feel like there'd be little landing lights here too. Like, this is also not very Bellatrix Rising unless it has, like, weird deviations on it. Like, little extensions and stuff.
Makes sense.
I've got a graphic style forming here.
Yeah. I'm thinking that I wrote something super long. If someone was referring to cadets, would it just be cadet and then their last name?
Yep.
Okay.
It's
And
kind
then,
of like getting in trouble with your parents. If they add more than that, you're busted.
okay. And then if they followed it up with I am your captain and superior officer, would that be kind of redundant?
It depends on how mad are they.
Huh?
How mad are they?
Oh, they're meeting for the first time.
Then I'm your captain's fine.
Okay. All right. Because I'm trying to do this where Captain Theta is not. She works with monkeys. These are like basically humans that she's meeting for the first, like, on the station. But
Right?
she's mainly been working with monkeys this entire time.
So
So
she's been monkeying around.
slightly, but
Just
like I already showed like Chimpy's attitude towards humans. So
right,
it's like kind of like she's around people that are very like curt about everything because
right.
they're monkeys. They don't communicate like humans.
Because they're monkeys.
Yeah,
Just like how that's the explanation. They're monkeys,
they're monkeys. Legit monkeys.
right? As opposed to those illegit monkeys. Nothing worse.
Hey, I mean, I could make this a Planet of the Apes scenario.
You totally could.
I'm just like thinking like, hey, there's this old Earth movie that's being broadcasted. Do you want to watch it with us, Chimpy? What's it
Okay.
called? Planet of the Apes? What? It's an old Earth movie. What's it about?
You'll love it. It's all
You'll
about
love it.
you.
And it will be like the original one from like the 70s. Like the humanoid aliens that look so bad.
Yep, 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 yep. There you go.
I remember watching that as a kid. Like the very first time I watched it, I got super bored halfway through.
I was having that problem with the kiddo. Watching some of my favorite movies too. It's hard. I understand that.
Well, I think I was around your kid's age when I watched it for the first time with my family.
Probably.
Yeah, I just remember seeing the end credits of that, and then I just remember like when he got back to Earth. That's when the apes and the monkeys started rising there.
Yep. I will reload Daz Studio and we will look at this modification to the ship and see whether it looks good or not. We will sit here and we will wait. This is the only problem I've got. I click the button to say load or to load Daz Studio, and nothing has happened yet. And I'm like, okay, did you get it and you just haven't gotten around to the process of actually loading it? Or, yeah, see, I don't think you actually heard my instruction to load. There we go. All right. Let's take a look at the Corvette. Fork. Okay, so moving to the underside, that looks good. Okay, the door didn't make it. Why didn't the door make it? It's not rendering the door. Is that because the door is a different color? Oh, you know what? Let's just render it, shall we? Read my camera. My render camera. Let's take a look at it.
I don't know if I actually like the rendering process of the program that you're using. Like on my screen, I don't know if it's you, but you're on your screen, but on my screen, it looks like a bunch of dots. It looks like it's pixelated on my end.
Yeah, it is. That's why. All right. We're just looking. Yeah, see, the door is just big white door of doom. That's not what we want. So we have a problem. Oh, that's right. We have the wrong setup here for this. Okay. Is it my DAS defaults? Maybe. Might be DAS defaults. There we go. We have to go through and fix some of these problems. One of them is that. So Windows should also be you. So we're going to go ahead and render general. Let's bring this down to just 100. Still not rendering the door properly. Makes me wonder whether the door is inverted, whether something's not right with the door. Because the door shouldn't be rendering like that. Should be rendering in a different way.
Wow. So now that makes sense.
The maser ports are on here, which is good. It's nice to know. They sit right up here, these turrets.
Mm-hmm.
And she has 3 maser ports, port starboard and aft. I don't have any underside maser ports. I've been thinking about whether I should put an underside maser port on there. Maybe I should. So the maser ports are a separate entity, so that I can add or subtract them depending on which ship it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because each ship will have different loadouts and principles, and this Corvette can be a science ship. See, all of this underside here is black. Just this whole panel black. Which makes me wonder whether it's misaligned. It'd be remarkably aggravating. For example, like I can also see that the landing pad, the landing gear divots also render black. Inside there, which actually looks fine for these guys, but isn't. I'm feeling like maybe I am doing something not quite right.
Can't seem to find the spelling of a word.
I need to get that line fixed.
Ah, that's because it doesn't exist. Welcome to the wonderful world of the English language.
English isn't really a language. It's 3 languages dressed up in a trench coat trying to pretend to be an actual language.
Well, sometimes I wish that English wasn't in a trench coat with other languages.
Yep. English is notorious for taking other languages, dragging them into the back alley, and beating them for loose grammar.
Yes, trust me on that one. Like when I was saying the Mad Rouge, right? Rouge and Rogue are spelt the same, but Rouge is French for red, and Rogue is a rogue.
Right?
Why? It's like when people ask me why Polish spell their ethnicity in English as the same word as polish. Well, you know.
Yep. I do not envy people who have to learn English as a second language.
Well, I was always told, like, if someone ever asks me, just say I'm Polska.
I swear you just said Huskow, but that's all right. I'm okay with that.
No, it's Polska.
Yep.
But that was my grandfather, which last night I had, like, I'm starting to think that I had, like, feelings of missing him because my other grandfather's memorial is coming up at the end of August.
Yeah.
I'll be spending a week out in Rhode Island.
Doing some examination on this model. I'm noticing some rough spots that really should be addressed. I'm not sure. Well, at least this one has the landing lights on it. The docking lights to the airlock. And they do get distorted out here, but not so bad not as bad as I thought.
Well, they kind of look like a normal distortion if you had to, like, sit there and try to make it fit on certain hard.
Like on a weird shaped hull.
Yeah. Not saying that it's like it's weird, but it's fun
Yeah.
to look at. Oh, you can rent a yacht. No, I don't want to rent a yacht.
Other than that, I think the model is doing fine. Should be pretty decent for what we're using it for. And I think that the new variant works. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is go here on this guy and fix the underhull because this door is closed. We just don't have that part of the model in yet, but we will.
Is it just not rendering?
No, I haven't built it yet. It's a door that needs to open. So I need to make a little clamshell that opens up. That's the front landing gear and the landing ramp. So there's two pieces to it. There's a part that comes down, and then a landing gear extends, and then the landing ramp drops down. So you come out of that door there on a front landing ramp. So we just need to facsimilate it until it's actually built. So that's all. Until then, that door is just closed, as should be. But yeah, there's a forward landing ramp on that part of the ship, which you can kind of see under here. Kind of see that forward landing area there. And there'll be two doors that close over at the front door here, which has the landing foot, and then the back door, which is the landing ramp. And then we have the space dock if you're in space, and then we use this airlock right on the side. Well, really, the more I think about it, the more I think that an upward dock might be better, or a lower dock. So one of the things that there was a discussion about was the idea and the concept of the being able to use these ships on the back of other ships. So docking them to the back of well, I don't have it yet. That's fine. We'll get it. Maybe that's the next thing we work on right now.
So in my mind, it just went to a very disturbing left field.
It did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We're going to bring in the destroyer, because that's the next one we really should do. Because I think I need to bring in So that's actually like a real thought that I've been kind of pondering myself is, are there pets? Can you have pets on a ship? The next real question I've got is that something we do? You know what I mean? Like, do we do the pet thing at some point in time, or, you know, huh? Because that's a good thought process. Do we get to a point where we no longer keep pets? So I would think, unlike Star Trek, unless you're the captain, I think probably the captain could get away with it, but nobody else would keep pets on board.
I I think I think you would have a lot of by this point with Pelagics Rising. I think you would also have a lot of virtual or mechanical or even um, holographic pets.
Yeah, like I don't think there would be a lot of pets because you think about the way we fled Earth.
Yeah, I mean the only
I
type
don't.
of real pet that you would have after we fled Earth by now they would see it as a food source instead of a pet.
Although, I mean, if you have that one heel baba,
Yeah, true.
she might have hauled her cats with her onto the ship,
Well, I've been told cat's a little gamey, but it tastes similar to pork.
right?
I'll be
That's
right
what they
back.
say. That's what they say. Okay, we're going to have to bring up some other things here. For one, we're definitely going to need to bring up. What am I thinking? Who are you people? I need to bring up Blender. 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 Blender is starting. Because we need to UV map the destroyer.
I think with the story that I'm working on,
Uh-huh.
yeah, cool robot buddy. I think I like Ghost Hands comment on that because cool robot buddy, you wouldn't be tempted to eat it.
We're just saying.
As my husband presented that one show, if humans know that they something tastes good, we will eat it.
Eat it. He's not wrong. This is the Bill law.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the thing I'm working on. Like, I don't think pets should really be included in it. But also at the same time, these people came from Jupiter. I would have to figure out what type of animals they have there.
Right.
Like, would I just make all of my people like vegetarian and that's it? Be done?
Where did I hide that destroyer? I hid it for myself, so I'll never find it. I can't find it. It needs to be. And destroyer object import. All right. Work. We have our destroyer. Now, what I was saying was the Corvette can sit up here on this port, which is what this landing port here is designed for. So, I mean, these destroyers are markedly larger than the Corvettes. So, we have a lot more surface area to deal with here.
Well, okay. So when you were talking before, and I was trying and I was sitting here and I was trying to think of something to write. While you were talking, like I got the image of the male mosquito trying to propagate with the female mosquito. When you were saying the docking
Oh
for it,
yeah.
I was just like, that was disturbing for me to actually think of, because it's like, why do I keep relating to bugs this morning?
I
I
don't know.
don't know.
I'm trying to figure out why you're stuck on bugs. I don't know.
I don't even know why I'm stuck on bugs, but like, there we are.
Right? And the first thing we'll do is go into naked mode,
Mm.
and then we'll separate all the pieces of this ship. Okay. Or not, object mode. You need to be in edit mode. There we go. Edit mode. Thank you. Yeah, we're a mess. Okay. All right. We'll take all of these.
It's 11:01.
Aw. Well,
I'm
yeah.
very sorry to hear about your dog, Ghost Hand. That sucks.
Unwrap. I think that though we do look for comfort in all kinds of different interesting things, George is sort of part of our show to some degree. I don't know if I would necessarily say that we look for comfort with George before the other humans in this family, but we do definitely see him as part of the family. I'm trying to figure out what's unwrapping over here. Like, what did you snag onto here?
Is it part of the side wings?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is like, are you getting part of the wings? What's going on here? I don't know what it's capturing. Maybe I'll do maybe the left side instead, and then go through to the wings all the way across, and just do the top part like so. Okay, kind of coming through here like so. Trying to snag all of these pieces. Should I? Okay, so this is all the top. Maybe I'll just do this. Trying to decide if this is angled enough that maybe I don't want to mess with it. Maybe I want this to be on like the side or something like that. I think I actually do. So let's go on ahead and go back and just take these out like so and make this just the top. Oh, door. Like, for example, if you think about the size of this ship, this is a docking port that holds a Seagull class ship on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, the Seagull class would stick out quite a ways.
Whereas a Corvette would be smaller.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm like kind of feeling like, trying to decide how I want to sort this. There we go. That's much more comprehensive. Not, awesome, but comprehensive. Unwrapping is a wild thing. So one of the, I mean, to the point that Ghost Hand's kind of talking about here, I have a real problem with animals, putting the animals down or giving animals shots or whatever, because you cannot explain to them what's about to happen.
Uh-huh.
That for some reason bothers me more than putting down humans or giving shots to humans.
Well,
Like I have given shots to my kid and to my cats, and it's much easier for me to give shots to my kid because A, he knows he's going to get ice cream out of it. You know what I mean? Like B, he knows it's going to hurt, and you can tell him it's going to hurt, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, so he can brace himself for it and stuff. Whereas my cat's just sitting there all day, one day, and then somebody sticks a needle in them, and they're like, "What? What'd you do? What's that for?" So I sort of have a little bit more of kind of a problem with that aspect, I think, more than anything.
well, I mean, for me, I think what it is if you're talking about like giving people, it, so when you give a human a vaccination or a shot, like a booster to an immune vaccination type deal,
Right.
you
Which
have like a
my
set.
kid has gone through a number of them.
Yeah, you you have to explain to them what's going on, everything. Animals is a bit different. You can't really truly explain to them because depending on the animal is depending on how well they actually observe human interaction and how they learn from it. But also animals they respond to pain and not always in a good manner.
Right. I don't know.
When we had to put Nacho down, Bill had never been in the room where when they put an animal down because up until that point he had only experienced an animal passing away naturally. Um, but when we put Nacho down, no one prepared him for the fact that Nacho's eyes would still be open,
Right.
and that was weird for him.
Yeah.
Um, Now, had we been able to afford cloning our cat, I think we would have done that. But I also find that notion kind of a little bit weird for myself.
Right.
Um, but I do know that some pets are really, really not, like you don't want to leave them. You always want to have them around.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's at night, Dove gets into bed with us and then curls up next to me. And this is like her thing she does every night. She crawls on my chest. That's like irritating because I'll be reading a book and she has to crawl right here in front of the book. And I have to admit, there will be a day where she won't be here anymore. And that'll be missed. Her actions, the things she does, kind of part of the nightly routine. It's part of, the things we do. George has been making a mess of everything, but I don't think he has a pattern yet. Like, he's not old enough to quite have established all of his operations, because he's still a kitten.
Yeah, he also doesn't have
Big
his
freaking kitten.
Yeah,
But he's a kitten. And so at some point, he's going to have his pattern and routine. And you're going to miss that when that's gone. I mean,
yeah.
it's the way it goes. I still talk about Luna and Suki, who were the previous cats who lived with me. They were the first cats that ever moved out with me when I moved out of my mom's house as an adult.
Yeah.
They were my first cats that were mine, that weren't part of the family's. And so, there were many nights where it was just me and the cats, and as in a little teeny apartment, somewhere. Long before I had a family, long before I had a kid, and stuff like that. So when they passed, that was kind of sad because they were company all the time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Bill talked about it with Nacho. Both of us have high anxiety. Nacho was kind of like a very chill cat, and he knew, like, he would instinctively know when we were anxious.
Anxious.
Yeah, like he just would. And I think that's like both of us missed that part about Nacho.
Sure.
But also at the same time, we knew Nacho was sick for a while.
And it's always good to, have dealt with Nacho in that manner.
Yeah. But had we dealt with him in a different manner, I don't know if we would get the same results. So there's that. But,
I don't know. It's weird. It's a thing.
yeah.
So I can kind of see it's weird that you'd be so attached to an animal, but I can also see being attached to some animal. You know what I mean?
Well, the
I
thing is,
get it on both instances there.
yeah, I kind of hope that, like, me and Bill have talked about getting another pet. Not right now because we have to. If we get one right now, we have to file new paperwork.
Right. It screws up your entire ability to do stuff. I get that.
Oh, where did you see a comment? I don't see a new comment.
Huh?
Did Brent privately message you?
Maybe. What are you talking about?
I don't see a new comment, and you were talking about a new comment.
No, you were talking about messing up your adoption paperwork.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, so if we get a pet, we have to actually file additional paperwork saying this, giving the status of the pet and actually giving the vet information and all of that stuff to the adoption agency. And both me and Bill just don't want to deal with that. We'll get a pet when we have the adoption finalized. Most likely after we get.
I am amazed at how well you have to have your life in order to get a pet. Or to get a kid
for adoption. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I have said this many times, I wish they were that restrictive of those of us that have them biologically. Because there are a number of people who I'm like, you guys wouldn't have passed the adoption agency tests.
Like that point, like I will be realistic. I've actually been in like discussions with people who are also awaiting adoptions, and it's like the same thing. Like every single one of us are like, yeah, if I had known that this is what it was going to be, like, my sister who's like, oh, just relax and the baby will come your way once you relax. Like, she has no idea. And half the time her kids are like running everywhere.
Right.
Like, I'm like, yeah, but that's not a judgment of parenting though. That's high energy children. You do realize that if you adopt a child, they're probably going to be high energy like that.
My kid's pretty high energy.
Yeah, I mean, your kid.
My dad kept saying, "Gosh, if we could only harness that, we could probably power a couple of power plants with it."
I mean, right? I mean, I as a kid, my nickname came from the thing that my grandmother basically said. I had a lot of pep, and that's where Pepper came from. But like let's be realistic. Like, kids are hard work. they're a lot of work.
They really are.
And they're a good kind of work, but at the same time, you can't categorize kids kind of like mini adults at times. And I think that's like one thing that you get through the adoption process that you learn right away is you don't know what you're gonna get. You're gonna have to be open for everything, and you're gonna have to really accept pretty much anything.
Somebody had once said, you raise the kid that you get. You know what I mean? As in, you don't get to choose what kid you get. You raise the kid that's in the crib.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not something that you can choose. You don't get to say, I want to have this kind of kid. You get what you get.
Yeah.
You raise the kid that you get. Which I like that analogy because it's also a thought process change. It's a shift in thought process. It's, you know, you're not thinking of this as, you know, you're not thinking of it as I'm going to mold this kid into X, Y, or Z. You know, they're going to mold you. You
right.
You raise the kid that's in that crib. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can, like, there's parts of my childhood that I don't want to pass on. Like, one of them was like basically stamping out any type of personality at certain points from some people. Not everyone in my family, just a few people.
Sure.
But also at the same time, like, I was raised by people. Sometimes I was with people who said children are meant to be seen and not heard, and then other people that are like, speak your mind. So it was very conflicting message on that front.
So the children are not supposed to be seen and not heard. I feel like some people take that the wrong direction, because I actually understood. The way I understood about that one was when you're at an adult party and the adults are doing their thing, you need to be seen so that the adults can have something to talk about, but not heard, because all you're going to do is talk about Transformers and they're not going to understand what you mean by Transformers or Robotech or whatever. And so the concept is you will distort and twist the discussions when they are all trying to make deals and wheel and deal and all that stuff. So I never got that was as a child, you should never talk, ever. You know, I never got that. I got especially since I had a socialite for a grandmother. And so we had like big parties where there were a lot of people. And they're all talking about oil because this is Texas.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about oil wells and land. And that was boring. And I didn't want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about Transformers or Robotech or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek, mostly Star Trek. And so that was a laid down rule. But when it was just the family, I was encouraged to say all kinds of things. I was encouraged to talk.
Yeah, so mine was a little bit different. It was me and my siblings were very loud children.
Right?
And so
I feel like people wield that as a shut up. You know what I mean? Like they wield that to say, hey, children are supposed to be seen, not heard. And you're like,
yeah. No, and I have a few siblings that still have issues to this day about being told that we couldn't speak at all at certain points in our life. So, like, trust me, I get it. I get what you're saying, because we did do that. Like, we went to functions, formal functions and stuff like that, and we did have to respond that way.
You're not supposed to talk at formal functions.
Yeah, you're not. No. Like, for
you'll
us,
just mess up what they're talking about, and they don't want to hear about it anyway.
Yeah.
As an adult, you understand a little bit more about what happens, because adults, by rules, we adults are supposed to listen at a party to you and smile. By rules, like the social rules say that if Pepper comes up to me in a party and starts talking about, I don't know, obscure mathematical formulas, even though it would drive me absolutely bonkers, I have to sit there and go, oh, that's fascinating because of social rules. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
could
think
do that.
I think that was designed to prevent the kids from coming up and going, so I was on level 42 of game 46 of thing blah 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 blah, and you have to, because of social rules, go, that's fascinating, tell me more. Oh
Yeah.
god. You know, I think that's really what. And so I feel like if you use it as a wielded thing, like children are supposed to be seen and not heard, and yada yada yada, just a general, like at at dinner or whatever, then you're being obnoxious. I can't select these polygons. I'm selecting every other polygon. But like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target. Ugh.
Ensign, you're fired.
Right? Oh god.
Um, no, like I think what it was is well, I mean, for the most part, like my grandfather, if we were around my grandparents and my grandfather had to do a deal, most of his deals were always done at the country club and on the golf course.
Yep.
Like they were never done at his house.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it depends on also the family. I mean, clearly.
yeah. Um, which, in some degree, I actually kind of like the fact that my grandparents had had that, but it is a weird factor, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't I think that the people use that as an example of how Southern raising is cruel. And I'm like, I think people didn't quite grasp what the point of it was. And it's a lot of it is just so that you're not suffering from the obtuse of that social rule where you have to listen to the kid go on for 2 hours about the book he just read last night, which has absolutely nothing to do with what we're here for today, you know.
Well,
And we waste a lot of time dealing with
yeah,
that, dealing with the fact that the kid just dominated the conversation for something that has nothing to do with what we're doing. And I
yeah,
think that's the thing.
yeah. Well, for me, what it was we had, since my parents were younger, a lot of their friends were around their age as well, and so we were like the only kids for some of our parents' friends for a very long time.
Sure. Yeah, I can see
Um,
that.
so like for us, like I sat there and like I swear I think I talked to one of my mom's best friend who I call Aunt Paula, and I think I talked to her and her husband about My Little Ponies
Right?
in the now this is the 80s, so this is the original My Little Ponies, folks. This is not like Friendship is Magic or anything like that. And yes, I have two older sisters. That's why I had access to My Little Ponies. Um,
Right? Because otherwise you're not allowed.
yeah, I wasn't like let me put it to you this way. Like I had a section of my family where if I brought My Little Ponies with me to like a play thing, I would have had to leave them in the car and taken out like some type of action figure because they would not allow me to play
That was that
with
also.
that.
So I say a lot of this with provision. There were aspects of Southern society that actually really bite.
Yeah,
And that was one of them. Boys could not play with girl toys. That's not cool.
yeah. My husband was the same way. Like he wanted to watch Rainbow Bright and Strawberry Shortcake and stuff like that. I think it was more or less Rainbow Bright because it had more than just girls on that show when they originally came out.
Yeah.
Um, and his mom, I believe, said outright, like, it's a show for girls, so you're not allowed to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sounds about right. One of my kids' favorite shows right now is She-Ra. I'm not pulling that stuff. He can watch it all day long. If he finds heroes there, I'm happy.
Well, I mean,
That
She-Ra,
is not a game I'm going to play.
if you watch the original She-Ra, it's kind of weird. It's 1980s. It's 1980s. Like, I'm not saying like it's bad. Like, when I was like around 3 years old, for 6 months, and no, almost eight, like almost a full year actually. I demanded to be called She-Ra. All right, I'm not saying no. It's weird for that. I'm saying it's weird in the sense of the storytelling, the way that 80s storylines were told. It was like you would have a character in one like that people already knew, and then like the next episode is the actual introduction of the character where you find out a little bit of how they met, but there's no context to kind of connect the two. So it seems like the episodes are always reversed, or like you would have some like weird factor to the series, like nothing seems to be in order. In the new She-Ra, everything's in order. So like something happens and there's always a reaction to the episode, and the storyline is done. And I think what a lot of the times what it is a lot of people have realized kids are a lot smarter than you thought. And back in the 80s, they still thought kids were able bodies to force their parents to buy merchandise.
Yes.
So,
where's my materials editor? There it is. We're going to take this and we're going to paint it red. We're going to call this.
Also, it's almost 11:30. Do you need to stop and have lunch with your kiddo?
We do need to stop. We probably should not hyper-focus. I'm totally hyper-focusing. Oh, well, that's all right. Okay, guys. We'll go on ahead and not hyper-focus because that seems like a bad idea. Let's go on ahead and say good to have all of you guys with us today. We had Joan for a little while. We had Brent here, too, for a little while. We had Ghost Hand, who I feel like... So I just totally read Ghost and then your name. So I was about to say we had Ghost Pepper here. And Ghost Peppers are hot. Like, they really hurt. And I'm a pepper-eating person, so...
Should I be worried?
Yes. You taste like pork. Right?
Chicken.
Anyway.
And spongy like tofu.
Right, exactly. So, okay, guys. We will see you tomorrow. We'll probably be continuing on with the work on this destroyer because the destroyer plays in one of the episodes. So we've got to have a destroyer set up and stuff. So we will talk about it later. But in the meantime, I will see you tomorrow, Pepper, for artist check-in. It was good to have you here. And now you're going to go take a nap.
No, I'm probably going to get food first.
Yeah, I want food too.
Yeah.
Coolio! Well, then I will talk to you all later. It was good having you. And remember, everybody, keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye.
Woohoo!
Computer, good night.